numbers. And shouldn't it be incrementing at this point?
I don't know.
That's weird. Hey, everybody, here's this Agile. Yeah, I think it is. Here's this Agile thing, I think. Live on YouTube. My name is Matt Beam.
I'm Mike Markey.
My name is Jeff Singleton.
And we were just shooting the whatever, as is our wont, on
Saturday morning. At
yeah.
10 a.m.
I didn't want to say shit because it's profane, but then it sounded like maybe it might be worse. Shooting something on Saturday mornings. We're just talking. And so, but I don't know that we have a set topic. How you guys doing?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
You?
Fantastic. It's not bright enough outside, but that's, whatever.
And it gets less bright way sooner than I think it should. We went out driving last night. We went to dinner and we're driving, and everyone in the car is just going, God, it feels like it's like 8 o'clock. It's like, no, it's 4:30.
Yeah.
It's like
100%.
So.
There was some chance that Marcello might join us. I don't know if that's going to happen today. Probably not. He's in a class, so no.
Okay, then.
Yeah. What were we talking about? We were talking about the Agile job market, I think, still.
Well, the job market, period.
Yes.
Well, let's not pigeonhole it to Agile because Agile's not a thing anymore, right?
Apparently not.
But there was an article recently about how all of white collar job market is just totally depressed, in which, for those that are white collar, this is not news.
We're depressed. So, yeah.
Oh, bother. Yeah. So it's, okay. So we could be depressed about that. We could be negative, or we could view it as an opportunity, I guess. Right.
You mean maybe exhibiting, practice what we preach and have kind of a growth mindset, perhaps?
Boy, that's such a great point. Yes, I would say. I've said that, I don't know how many times I've said that to people who are experiencing their own changes and, difficult times. Hey, congratulations, now you're a product owner. Here's what that means. Mm-hmm. And maybe you didn't want to be a product owner, and that's not the best way to make a product owner, by the way. But I've talked a lot. Yeah, but I've talked a lot about the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, like the assumption that the way we've done it, or the thing that I've done forever, and what I know is what I'll continue to do and know going forward. I think it's an opportunity to eat our own dog food.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So, heading into, so I'm between engagements, which is a colorful way of saying I'm looking for work. And I've been searching the boards by networks. I've been looking for opportunities, and I came across one. I don't want to go into too many details about it, but I came across one that is actually a little outside my comfort zone, in that it's an actual practical application of what we do. And not in software. It's like in a manufacturing environment. It's taking lean and flow and everything we've talked about, every show we've done for the last 6 months. And it's like, now apply it and do this for reals. And I'm like, and at first my brain was like, ah,
You turned into the Kathy cartoon.
yeah. But I mean, it's an intriguing thing. And I haven't gone very far through the process yet. Just initial conversations, and so we'll see where things progress. But one of the things is that the job actually entails a learning curve, where they actually say, we don't expect you to come in here on day one and start pointing at things in our plant and going, fix that, change that. This role has, get to know it first, get to know what we do, get to know how it goes through this. And I'm like, well, yeah, absolutely. Seek first to understand. That's the first rule of consulting.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, 20 years ago, I'm guessing you didn't think you would be in coaching. I don't know. I've just sort of more of a question.
20.
I didn't.
No, not 20 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago, yes, because that was the job 10 years ago.
Yeah, but this sounds like a discovery process, which is amazing. How is it different from what you've been doing? Is it that it involves physical things
Yeah.
instead? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's the first big difference is like it's almost like, oh, well, there's literally nothing to have a conversation about software and cross-functional teams, at least not in that way. I bet that's not true.
I bet it's not.
It's not. It's not true. No, I take that back. It's just the terminology's all eerily similar. Like, and that's one of the things I'm being really careful about is that I don't step on a terminology landmine that I think I know what it means in these conversations, because even the word agile doesn't mean what I think it means to them. Maybe. Right.
But there are probably parallels in the mindset that they're looking for, which you've got the principles embedded in a different environment. Mm-hmm. And isn't it more a matter of, hey, apply the things that you believe, value, and have continued to learn and adapt to a different environment?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. And so in that sense, it's kind of exciting. It's actually a super exciting opportunity because how often do we get to actually do?
Well, that's the problem. When you've been in consulting mode,
yeah.
I think this is one of the travails that people don't talk about. I guess if you want to be a consultant for the rest of your life, and nothing wrong with that, but one of the issues becomes, are you actually applying, or are you spending time? If you're a real consultant or a coach, you're helping guide people, but are you actually doing stuff? Are you actually immersed in it? No, you're more of an outsider. You're an observer. You're helping to guide and coach.
Yeah.
And it, in a way, over a long term, 10 years or more, it almost deprives you of the ability to do what you're professing everybody else should be doing.
Yeah, it's another way to say that is, do you actually own anything? Are you actually on the hook for anything? Can you stick around long enough to see the stuff that you advocated for, the stuff that you put in place? Did it actually work out? There's an old video of Steve Jobs talking about this in some classroom. He talks about I don't know if he talks about the curse of consulting, but this is basically, I think, what he was saying. Like, I've loved consulting because I got to move around and see a bunch of different stuff for years, and I learned it's like getting paid to go to college, right? Because you take all these principles and you see how they get instantiated and how they work out or don't. But then you move on quickly. I've moved on, relatively quickly after a year or two. And I do think there's a balance there. It's like, in this, but like, the idea that you could be a good agile coach without ever having been on a software team, right?
Yeah.
You could be a good coach without ever having been a player. And so I'm wondering if maybe to be a good consultant, you have to go back into, sometimes you're an outsider and that's effective, and sometimes you're an insider, and maybe there has to be a balance there. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I would think so. I mean, it's almost like the difference between theory and practice, because how many things have we explored in the last year? How many topics have we said, oh, hey, I wonder if there's an application for this? And then you might be at one client and you say, oh, this is a pain point for them, so I'm going to dig more into this. I'm going to look. And then you go to a different client and it's like, okay, that's not their pain point. I have to learn a different thing for them.
Right.
So the flip side of that is when you're in a more steady state environment, you're in the same place, the problem space will be less varied.
Yeah, it's static. Right. So the downside is you can get bored because it's like I'm doing the same stuff and the same principles and the same stuff. Yeah. It's like,
Or I've got this toolbox of 50 things and only 10 will apply here. Right. Totally. And maybe 3 more might be able to apply if I try to make it happen. but it's not going to naturally happen. And it's like, so then you're a tool in search of a solution, not a...
Yeah, you're a hammer
no,
looking
a
for a
tool
nail.
in search of a problem. Not a,
Well, I've never thought of you as a tool, Mike. So this is really
cool.
This is really exciting.
So
yeah.
And
You
then,
know who we? Go ahead.
what? No.
I was just going to say, you know who we should get, because on the subject of physical versus non-physical, let's say process control.
Yeah. Who?
You know who I think would be really interesting to talk to about that?
I can think of two people, but I want to hear who you think.
Pretty sure I think Nigel Thurlow would be
I
interesting
thought you were
to
going
talk.
to think that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he might be on the hook for sometime I think the first Saturday in December he'll be here to talk to us, so we can pick his brain about that.
Okay. Of course, that might be everyone else's Christmas present because of our lead time.
Oh, yeah, no, we have to
Yeah.
eat some of our own dog food and get our cycle times way down. Yeah.
So. Yeah, that did occur to me, that he probably is a wealth of information that might be helpful in actual practical applications. You know, in terms of Agile or actual practical application, I shared with you guys a story several months ago about somebody who I had coached very early in my Agile career, who, you know, we left the organization and we both went our separate ways, and he has grown, continuing to apply Agile principles to everything he does, and he's actually created a company based on Agile principles and just diversifying to all sorts of things. I mean, he's really doing it. He's really applying this stuff, the real customer centric, people centric, the way he deals with them. And I kind of half-assed him. I said, would you half-assed? I asked him if he would like to come on the podcast at some point and actually, you know, because there's a lot of negativity out there around Agile, saying no one would ever actually use this stuff for real. And then here's somebody who has. And they created, and they're being successful with it. So to get that story out into the world, because, you know, I think there's just not enough of the positive stuff out there.
Totally agreed. He can use the calendar scheduler to set up some time. Send him the link.
Good to know.
So,
You
Mike,
know who, go ahead.
Yeah.
I guess to harken back to what you were talking about, the situation a minute ago, this sounds like an opportunity, but it's also a situation where you really will be exposing for yourself the continuity, and there is continuity between Lean at one point and Agile.
Mm-hmm.
You know, historically, you know, Agile it was kind of a, oh yeah, and we have all of the roots of Lean. And it's like, what, is Lean a bad word or something? No, it is not. But it's almost as if for a while, the Agile community did not want to recognize its roots in Lean. And maybe, you know, they were kind of like Cain and Abel, you know, the brothers were like, hated each other. But the reality is they are related. And understanding that there is a continuum, there are places where Lean is absolutely, you know, pure Lean makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. There are some environments where, if there's any such thing as pure Agile, just true Agile makes a lot of sense. But then there's this whole spectrum in between, and whether Lean Six Sigma falls under there, you know, it's gradations of, okay, well, here's another step here to apply to the proper environment. This is what is appropriate for this environment. maybe not pure lean, maybe not pure agile, but this is what will work for us. And it has nothing to do with a whole bunch of tools, even though you will use some number of tools, but at each stage on the continuum, and it's almost like, okay, so let's recognize that it is a continuum, and it isn't a us versus them, or this, not that. It's hey, there are underlying themes beneath all of this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's the right tool for the right job at the right time. I mean, that's the ultimate goal here. And being pragmatic about that is to not say I have to do one in this situation because that's just the way we do things around here, but to do it because it's helpful and it's the right thing to do. No, it's I really like the concept, the actual practical application of it. It just feels like a well, it's a contributor role. It's a doing and being and not just helping others do and be. It's the doing it part of the manifesto, not the help and not the helping others do it part.
Exactly.
Right.
You'll be learning better ways to do it by doing it, not just helping other people to do it.
Exactly.
That's come to think of it, that's kind of the dichotomy I was thinking about before, right? As a consultant, you can get better by doing both of those.
Yes.
But if you just always remain an external person, you help each other do stuff, and that's great. You can learn that way, but you miss out on some learning by being on the hook.
Well, a lot of the consulting industry starts out by you having done this thing for a long time. You elevate to a certain level, and then you kind of transcend into the blogosphere, and you say, I will now disseminate my knowledge down upon the others because I am an expert and I can share what I know. And then you get out there into the world as a consultant, and you're doing that and doing that and doing that, and the world shifts and new things happen, and then you shift with that, and you say, I've now shifted my expertise. But have you really shifted your expertise? You've shifted your knowledge, but you haven't done that. And a lot of consultants kind of have rolled with it to the point where they haven't contributed for a while. Mm-hmm. And then you're facing arguments like Marcelo saying that you haven't had fiduciary responsibility. And I think that's a fair critique. Yeah. Right? Is that at some point you really should get back in the trenches and try things out every now and again.
I would just say, just to be clear, like I still think as a consultant, you are on the hook for something, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's different from the core being part of the core business.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to argue, like to if you're sitting down with that executive and you're trying to coach them, and they lean back and they say, look, what you're saying, I can see where there's truth in what you're saying, but if I listen to you and I do this, that has real implications for me, my family, the people who work for me. This is going to be real things are going to happen as a result of this. And if it goes bad, I'm going to pay the price for it. And you're just going to go to the next thing.
You'll be gone.
And that's the problem that the consultant faces. It's that lack of skin in the game aspect of it. That the outside opinion, while appreciated, and that's what they brought us here for, it loses some of the weight of it at some point. You look thoughtful, Jeff.
Yeah. I'm uncomfortable with that because having been a consultant for a long time, I feel like I do have skin in the game. Frankly, when I walk into a client, it's different skin, but it's still skin in the game. And the reality is, if I don't deliver, if I don't help them deliver, then I'm gone. Yeah. And so I do have skin in the game. I want to see something through. I want to see success of my client. And if I fumble the ball, I do have skin in the game. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I'm comfortable with that.
I can put myself in his chair and I can say, I can see why you see there's a difference, right? How you feel the weight of what you do as a result of versus what you perceive me to do, right? There's a difference there, or a separation. And that's kind of the value of the consultant too. You come in with the outside perspective so you can spot the elephant in the room. You can spot the problems. You can see them easier than the people who are embedded in the system can see it. And so it's a trade-off. And I think I do agree. You've got skin in the game. You've got personal, I don't know, how would you phrase it? You are financially on the hook for what you're trying to do. But that's really more self-serving from their perspective, because you're not going to get a bonus based on the profits that come out of this or the losses that come out of this. You're just going to get a lack of getting paid to continue doing it.
And is their expectation of a bonus if this fails not self-serving? How is that different than for me? As a consultant, my engagement gets cut short because of a lack of progress. How is that different from an executive's perspective that, well, my bonus is banking on this?
Well, their bonus might be banking on it, but so is their career. I mean, they've built themselves up theoretically to this point. They've grown. Hey, look, I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
This is why we talk every Saturday morning.
But that's the thing, and you use that R word, reputation, and for me, it is much more about reputation and less about the money, because I want to be able to not just learn more about a particular business model or an environment or what works in what environments, but I also want to be able to say, look, I've had some success with this, and let me apply some of those principles in your environment. And it's totally reputational, not about the money.
So I wonder, Jeff, you talked about as a consultant, you still have skin in the game. And sometimes we're saying sometimes consultants don't have skin in the game. I wonder if it's a question of what skin it is, right? Because
your
if you've
skin
got
is
this,
not my skin.
well, yeah, it's like if the consultant has skin in the game that will return business results, right? So there's an overlap with what the executive or the employee needs to see. Then it feels like there's a unity of purpose there. There's one way to put it, right? And this sort of mirrors the conversation we've been having forever. Like if you just come in and do a bunch of stuff as a consultant that doesn't materially contribute to the business, then that is risky, right? But if it's properly set up, it doesn't really matter what the employment contract is, internal, external, right? You're all pulling in the same direction for the benefit of the org. Does that make sense?
It does. And in fact, if you structure an engagement appropriately, the consultant can have skin in the game. Or it's, again, to reiterate, we do have skin in the game generally. Maybe it's that the engagements are not structured properly. If you hand some organization or some consultant a 1 year or something project to come in and do something, or a 1 year engagement, maybe that's the problem. Maybe you should be saying as a client, okay, you say you can do this. Let's break this into smaller increments and let's assign some measures and expect to see some progress at regular intervals.
Yep.
Yeah, and I bet they wouldn't naturally do that, but I think that would have to be your counter proposal when they come at you with, this is what we want from you, and you come back and say, okay, this is what I want to give back, right? I would like to be demonstrating value as we go. So let's build some reporting periods into this. I don't want to sit here for a year effectively spinning wheels, not providing value to you, just taking your money and not having any outcome. I want, there's got to be something in here so that you know that you're getting value, so that you're getting reassured, that so that we can determine if this is still mutually beneficial for us to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's your skin, right? That's where you're getting something back, as opposed to way too many. I don't want to point fingers, but there are people out there who take a job with a year-long contract, and their whole job is just maintain the contract for a year. And when it runs out, and I've been in an organization where their role was, and make sure you get renewed. It was like, that's not, that's the wrong skin, man.
That sounds a lot like launch 50 scrum teams in the first half of the year.
Yeah. And then, oh, we did it. Okay. Now do the other 50.
Right.
I would suggest, and this is probably going to be controversial, but I'm going to call it out. That's a lack of integrity. That is a lack of integrity from the consulting perspective. If that's your perspective as a consultant or a consulting organization, you lack integrity. I'm just going to say it.
Go on.
I was just going to say, so because integrity means your actions match your beliefs, or you did what you said you were going to do, and what you said you were going to do was help the organization, but what you did was help yourself, and hopefully the org is helped as well. Is that what you mean?
Yes, absolutely. Having integrity means doing the right thing, sometimes in,
whether it's good for you or not.
Good for you or not, exactly.
Well, or whether it appears to help you in the short term. Because another way to look at it is, if you're a consultant and you're taking these things, to Jeff's point, that are short-term helpful, but over time teach you to be in that mode of lack of integrity, that doesn't help you, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a helpful distinction. But it's a trap that people have fallen into. I know that.
Yeah. And because there's people out there who have fallen into that trap, we find ourselves in the place we are right now. As an industry, is there have been too many people who lacked integrity, maybe lacked humility about what they could do or what they were willing to do in an environment.
You just said something in this industry. What industry?
Well,
Agile.
The Agile industrial complex, I suppose you could say.
That industry. Gotcha. I was thinking about this earlier. Is that also, the problem? We've become an industry. An idea, a good idea, became an industry.
Became an institution. Or something.
It wasn't supposed to become an industry, was it?
Yeah, honestly, but when somebody maybe 23 minutes ago used the word pure. And that,
I did.
That caused a couple, because I've heard people talk about being an Agile purist, and that's not pure Agile, and blah, 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 you can't. And I wonder if there's any really, does that mean anything to be an Agile purist? It's like, Agile is a set of concepts, right? And I guess in the Platonic sense, that's pure, right? The pure thought of what it is, the definition. But in practice, in the real world, when you start, implementing that stuff and deal with reality, it's complicated. There's nothing pure. What's a pure tree, right? That's probably a crappy example. But that tree right there.
Do you want to back that up and try a different one?
I don't know. I mean, that tree has a bunch of non-tree stuff on it, right? There's no pure tree if you look at it that way.
Plastic bags in it and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's helpful to know that there's a thing
there's a
that
lot
grows
of moss
and it
on
has
there
certain
that's actually not the tree. There's birds in the tree.
But the tree is successful, but despite the fact that it's not a pure tree. And so, I wonder. It's growing. It's not dead.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't either. This is really tough.
There a partridge
they can't all be golden.
Is there a partridge in the pure tree?
Oh my God, that's coming out.
'Tis the season.
The wood cutting, that pun, they're all coming out in post. I can't remember why I was interested in the pure thing, but
yeah.
Anyway,
I was going to ask you.
Yeah,
Can you harken back to what drove your pure?
Yeah, because if you were to go into the pure, also gets into Puritan, and that brings up views of puritanical and cults, and it's just.
Well,
but then how many times have we had discussions about Agile being in a holy war with and there was a purity test for your Agile is not really Agile, which I never ascribed to. I've always been, there's principles and practices, and let's be pragmatic about this.
Pragmatic,
Right.
exactly. How does the Agile Holy War help the org, right? My understanding of
doesn't.
Agile is always that it was practical. Like it wasn't a theoretical discussion that we then instantiated and let leash upon the world for people to practice.
Right.
It was a bunch of people who were tired of skiing and were like, what do we think works? What do we all think works? Like, what have we seen that actually has worked out on the ground? Let's write that down. And then it became this thing, instantiated as concepts. And it's like, oh, now the concepts are holy. You have to follow the concepts.
The holy
It's like-
concepts that were wholly open-ended.
Wow. Another pun. I don't know. I'd allow it.
But people took things to, so, but to get back to the doing it
Yeah.
versus talking about it thing,
Yeah.
these people all were, they were all experienced software developers talking about better ways of developing software. Now, there are a lot of people who have gone, and Agile then therefore is only about software, which I actually think is BS. I think Agile as a philosophy is applicable in many different areas. And I've been scouring job boards. So there are a lot of people out there who are talking about, we want you to do Agile, but we don't want it in software. We're looking for, it's because it isn't just software. Its roots were in software, but its roots were also in lean, which was manufacturing, which had nothing to do with software, right? It's all processes that have efficiencies and inefficiencies, and we need ways to suss out the inefficiencies and find ways of experimentally improve them, or find the inefficiencies and have structured ways to define fixes for those, right? One way or another, find the problem, fix the problem,
Yeah.
do better.
Yeah.
That's Agile.
Wash, rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
Maybe
so,
Agile's like gap accounting, where it's a way to do accounting that just works better. It's more practical.
or in a specific instance, when you're in the chaotic space or when you're in the the complex space, it's more practical because of the way that you have to solve a complex problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're in a structured environment and you have a complicated problem that you can, after deep thought, solve without doing anything
Up front.
up front,
Yep.
then Agile isn't the best choice in that area. Although it may still allow you to be responsive as you progress down that fixed known path.
Totally.
Right? But if you're in the complex space, all the deep thinking up front in the world isn't going to solve that problem. Or it's going to be so much deep thinking that you actually took the entire amount of time and actually that was the thing that was always so frustrating, is that people were just like, I need to get a perfect estimate. I'm like, well, there's only one time you're going to get a perfect estimate.
Well, it
That's
won't
when
be
you're
an
done.
estimate.
Yeah.
Right.
When it's no longer an estimate. It's now it's
a fact.
an actual.
Yes.
It's what happened.
Yes.
Right. Even 10 seconds before you finish, there's still a small amount of uncertainty that you're still not going to finish when you said you were.
Yes. 100%.
I'm right there. It's almost.
Were you being facetious, or did somebody have you experienced where someone actually asked for the perfect estimate?
Yes. I've been in that situation where people said, I need real numbers here. I don't need this weird estimate thing. I'm like,
Real numbers.
so you want an actual? They're like,
Right. That would.
yeah, that. I want the real number. Before it
actual
happens, you
comes
want the
after.
real number. You want the actual. Yes, I want the commitment. I want you to say it's going to take me 47.2 seconds to do that, and it's better. It's like, you're in the wrong environment for that, sir.
Is there an environment where that is?
Oh, I'm sure there is, in a manufacturing world where you're stamping out widgets on an assembly line and you've got a known cadence of a process. You could absolutely actually estimate the creation of that red pen. I don't know. Is that what you meant?
Yes, this is the point that Nigel made. He literally held up a pen when he was talking to us and was like, in manufacturing, you can know how long it takes to manufacture one of these. It's 0.75 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
Because you're doing the same thing in a known, complicated environment over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact,
But
at
you're
that
not
point,
improving
that's
it?
simple.
You're not improving?
Well, would that be part of the estimate for how long, or the actual for how long it takes to make 1,000 of them, though?
So you start at some point making pens, manufacturing pens, and it takes 12 seconds to get from raw material to a finished product.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes your norm.
Mm-hmm. So
Are
when
you
someone
saying
comes
we're
in,
going to just accept that, or
well,
don't we try to trim that down, that time, without compromising quality?
well,
I do
okay,
think so, but I think that's a separate question.
Yeah,
To
because
Mike's
what-
question of how long will it take, we've got a baseline. But also we should be constantly improving.
Yeah, if someone comes to you and says, "I need 5 million pens," how long is that going to take? You can look at your existing process and tell them,
okay.
and give them an actual estimate
Yes.
of when it's going to be done. Now,
Not really.
if you are in charge of that plant and you're trying to suss out more capability from the plant, and you look at the process and you say, you know what, this looks like a place where there's some variability, or there's some place where maybe we can tighten this up, and maybe we could shave so many seconds off of our manufacturing process. At that point, that is an estimate of
'Cause you
the
haven't done
improvement
it
you're
yet.
trying to do, because you don't know yet.
Yeah.
Right. And so what do you estimate you'll be able to improve? Well, I think that if I can shave this, I'll be able to bring this down, which will be reflected in those costs and blah, 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 blah. So it kind of, the problem that we've always run into in the software world is people kept coming to us and treating software like it was widgets. It's lines of code. It's known quantities of things. It's like, no, it's not. It's a line of code isn't a one size fits all thing. It is in its own way a creative output, a creative right?
Mm-hmm.
And it produces an outcome. But you can create the same outcome with different numbers of lines of code, different structures of lines of code, different coding language. I mean, the way you achieve that is different. Some coding things are better for solving that problem than other coding things are better for solving that problem, but they all solve the problem, right? You can still create a website typing raw HTML yourself into an editor, which is still my favorite way of doing it.
Hello, 1996.
I know. Or you could just use the thing that generates code for you based on other people writing big bloated libraries of production code. And they both do the job.
Yeah.
But one's faster, one's more, but another one's more supported. One's, so there's trade-offs. I
All the way
lost the
down.
thread. I'm sorry.
Me too. We were going to talk about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. I don't know if that's still relevant.
Well, so if when a consultant comes into an organization, they run the risk is you're hiring an expert. An expert has a preset understanding of what they think solutions are, or they've applied solutions in many environments. And you vet them. You say, hey, how many times have you solved this problem in other environments? And so you've hired somebody who's done this way before, right?
Yes.
And most of the time you hire them for that, and then they come in and the first thing you tell them is, now everything you know is wrong. We're different. Right. And so the consultant has to seek first to understand and figure out what is different, if anything, and then choose the appropriate solution for recommendation to the client. Because it's still, you're still the outsider. You don't have the power to do any of it. You still have to get them to do it.
Are you saying that sometimes we need to help people appreciate the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset and become more willing to adopt the growth?
We'll come in and an organization is in a fixed mindset, but they called you because they're trying to grow. Right? or they're experiencing pain. I would say they would like to be in a growth mindset, but they don't know how to do it because they're fixed in this way of doing things. And a consultant can come in and have a fixed mindset as well. How many times have you hired a scrum master or seen a scrum master brought in who worked on exactly one team in one situation, and they just keep smacking the new team with the hammer of what they did before? And you're like, read the room. That doesn't work here. That's not that they're not going to respond to that. So that's a fixed mindset in a way too, even though it professes to be an open way of doing things, you can still come at it without the humility, the curiosity, right? The things to actually assume you don't know everything, right? Assume you know enough to really gauge the situation, and you've got enough things in the toolbox that you should be able to find a tool that will do the job. But you also may have to go out and find the right tool. And it's knowing enough when you don't have the right tool in your toolbox.
Yeah.
I'm out in my garage right now, and we're trying to work on one of the Halloween props, and I need the crescent wrench, and I can't find the crescent wrench, but I got this pair of pliers, and I know I can make the pliers work, but it's not going to be the best solution. And if it goes wrong, it's going to hurt something, but I really don't know where the crescent wrench is, so I'm going to try it anyway. That's a fixed mindset. That's not a growth. Or it's looking at going, I need to get this thing off here. I need a tool I don't even have. I need to go to the store and find the tool that is going to do this the right way, or I'm going to break something, or I'm just going to have a suboptimal result. And it's being able to recognize when the toolbox has the right thing and when it doesn't. And so I think that's a growth mindset. To come in and say, I am everything I am, but that doesn't mean I'm everything you need. But I can get there, and I can help you get there.
It's not a tragedy if I have a gap somewhere in my understanding or in my practice, because that is like actually how it is for everybody all the time.
Yeah.
It's just that, sometimes those gaps don't have super high consequences.
Yeah.
Because
But to go back to the skin in the game concept, though, that skin in the game can be a fixed mindset too. It can promote a fixed mindset. It's like I'm locked into the way we do things, maintaining my role, maintaining my importance, my little fiefdom, whatever it is, as an internal person in charge of a certain section of an organization. And it's seek first to preserve that, right? And then once it's preserved, then and what basic survival has been achieved, then maybe we can start looking at innovation or fixing things or doing things better. But the first thing we had to survive. I think there's a fixedness to that.
Fixedness and so is not a word.
So it is too.
Okay.
Fixedness.
Fixedness also not a word.
It is.
Doesn't
it
really
is a
matter.
word, actually.
Is it?
It is.
Look that up. Please continue.
Google it.
I'm going to Google it.
Webster it.
So.
Is fixedness a word?
You're going to trust Apple?
No. I'm going to trust DuckDuckGo. Remaining in... Holy shit. Fixedness is a word. It means remaining in place.
I will accept your apology now.
I am sorry. That is my demonstration of the growth mindset.
There you go. See,
I was sure that wasn't a word. I'm still not sure it's a word, but whatever. Go ahead. I'm open to it.
So that was kind of an example of
doesn't sound right.
What Mike was talking about in a growth mindset, the importance of having humility. If you have no humility, how can you have a growth mindset? Because you have to be able to acknowledge that you don't possess all the knowledge that you need to do anything that there is. Maybe you possess the capacity to learn and the willingness to learn, but to imagine that, well, I know everything I need to know. Okay, well, that's a fixed mindset.
That's risky.
Number one, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And how could you? unless you've done it a million times in their environment already, in which case you're embedded and you're there. But if you're in the game, you're in the environment, you're in the process, you can get lost in what you've grown to see as the situation. And I still think there's roles for consultants in the world, that the expert from the outside who can still come in and kind of shake the tree and say, there's things in your tree that aren't tree.
It's not a pure tree.
I saved you.
I appreciate that so much. So definitely, I think, yes, there will always be the role because of the nature of people and organizations. They tend to atrophy, right? Stuff can get fixed. You definitely are going to continue to have the situation where somebody in an existing org is like, I don't know how to think about this. I can't solve this problem. I need somebody who's an expert to just come in and ask them a bunch of questions and ask them to do stuff quickly. And also I will learn in the process. It's not that, yeah.
Although, to be fair, that's not the role that we find ourselves being called into. Because, yes, there's someone who says we need an outside expert. But very often it's, I need an outside expert to come in because they need to do things different. Right? So come in and help them do better. You'll come in and do that. And then, so now put yourself in the chair on the other side of the desk, and you're the person who's been told by someone above you that you need fixing, and that I'm bringing you this guy to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And now you're sitting there in the midst of your understanding of the world around you, whether you're a humble individual or not. And that person comes in, and all you know is they've been told to come fix you and your thing and your people.
Yeah. It depends on the nature of the problem. I mean, so if the leadership is part of the thing that needs to be addressed, and the leadership isn't willing to look at themselves, then yes, I agree with you.
We always prefer to have them involved, right? Like we know that we're going to have a better outcome if they're involved. Right. Otherwise, we're going to be sitting here and we're going to hit the resistance wall. The people who are sitting there, we might hit somebody who is a growth mindset person. Right. And I had the great fortune that the very first manager that I consulted for had a growth mindset and was like a sponge and wanted to learn and apply things and was a phenomenal experience. And it helped shape everything else that I was able to do later. Because I didn't start by hitting the brick wall.
Yeah.
Right. I always had that. This is what good could be. This is what great could be.
Yeah.
Right. So, but you get in there and somebody they're stuck. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know how to make things better. All they know is people are unhappy with them. And then somebody just showed up in their office one day and they're going to tell us what, and you can see the person who's just going to go, yeah, you don't know me, man. You don't know this. You don't know anything about this. You don't know why we're doing this stuff. Why am I going to listen to you? It's like, and you'll get it even further where they'll say, because I've seen your type before, you're going to be here until the end of your engagement. And then it's going to go back to the way that it is right now. And then in another 6 months, they're going to bring another one of you in here. And I've had that conversation too. Right.
This is why I think humility and curiosity are the things that apply to everybody, right? If you're leading with humility and curiosity, you'll figure it out. But like if you assume that you're standing outside the system and it's just your job to shovel money into it, and
yes.
So, and what's going on in the back of my mind here is that as a consultant, an outsider, we can even fall into a fixed mindset, and that's another danger.
Mm-hmm.
As a consultant, it's incumbent upon you to have a growth mindset, to continually refresh. This is what I used to do. This is what I used to know, but there are better ways that are evolving constantly, and maybe they didn't spring from my little pea brain, but from other places. And it's incumbent upon me to acquire those so that I can help my clients.
Yeah.
And so coming in as a consultant, and I really eschew this word, that expert word. It's like, ugh, don't. And I've had people, I've been introduced to clients. Oh, and so Jeff is this expert. It's like, don't use that word. Stop
Guru, you're a guru.
it. Well, guru just means teacher.
Yeah.
And so, and okay, yeah, maybe I'm here to share what I know, what I've seen, where I've been, as it can apply to your environment.
But you're also a student. To be a good teacher, you have to be a good student. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I think you should. I mean,
Yeah.
if we're eating our own dog food, as we say, we're trying to help people to develop or move away from a fixed mindset to a more growth-oriented mindset. That means we ought to be doing the same thing. And if we're modeling the behavior,
Yeah.
it's a heck of a lot easier to not be seen as a hypocrite,
Yes.
which
Yes.
doesn't do you a heck of a lot of good, right?
Certainly
It's not
helps with
compelling.
credibility.
It's not convincing. Yeah. Yeah. If we say that, okay, do as I say, not as I do. That's, I totally agree. Yeah. Okay.
So, usually you ask this, did we fix it?
What do you mean? I can't fix it. Yeah.
Not yet.
No, it's not fixable, but it's a, in the sense that it's just an interplay of like these forces and these concepts that continue. There is no ultimate state. It's a continuous process of learning and growth and development and exploration and reaching new levels of, I don't know, growth.
You know, I agree with the humility and the curiosity. Would another one be a willingness to challenge?
Absolutely not.
Challenge yourself.
Oh, yes.
Can we do better? Yes. Wow. We achieved this. Yeah, and celebrate, but can we do better? Isn't that what growth is all about? Because if you've achieved this and okay, we're done. We're agile. Yes.
Well, sure, we've been agile for 18 years, but there's been new learning. There's new things to new ways of looking at it. There are practices we used to do that we no longer look at as that's generally not as helpful as we thought it was at the time when it was the only thing we knew at the time. Right. But now the concepts of flow were embedded somewhere in the Agile Manifesto, but they really weren't articulated in there. They were sitting in XP.
Yeah.
Right?
They were implied, but they weren't.
Yes, they were implied. They weren't explicit. Right.
Yeah.
So, but we've come to understand flow is really valuable. That focusing on flow can drive a lot of behaviors. And in fact, focusing it on in certain ways, Steve Pereira, all the other folks who have graced our doorway in the last year. Well, Steve Tenen hasn't yet, but we're working on it.
Not yet. Oh, yeah.
But all these folks have come in and said, look, there's these other set of tools that fit, they dovetail with what you've done. Maybe they could replace what you've been doing.
Maybe they can be demonstrated to be more effective.
Right?
Right? Yeah.
In the right situation.
Maybe
not 100% of the time, but we should at least be curious to find out.
100%.
Right? And seeing what fits in what situation. And if the Agile Industrial Complex is stumbling at the moment and finding that their fixed mindset on you must do it our way. And that was the point at which they started losing it, is when everybody turned into their little fiefdom of this is my model and you got to follow my model and my model's better than your model. That is the same that got us into the Utah thing in the first place.
Yeah.
It was 17 people who were at odds and they came together. Now there's another group that are at odds with each other and everybody's trying to make a name for themselves and make it my stuff is better than your stuff. Yeah. But that's why I still think it's time for another gathering at the next level.
But
well, Scott Ambler thinks that's not going to happen. And he thinks it's not necessary.
That sounds like a fixed mindset to me.
That could be. Who knows? Depends on what you mean. Yeah.
Sorry, just shaking the tree.
Of
Seeing what
course.
falls out.
Okay. So now we fixed it, clearly.
There.
Which is convenient because we're also at the end of our time box, basically. We'll have Nigel on, and I think 2 weeks from today, Nigel Thurlow, to talk about Scrum at Toyota, amongst other things. We'll have other people to talk about other things. Marcelo, I think, will be here at some point, maybe next week. I'm not sure.
With a turkey leg in hand.
Let's assume that's more fun. Yes.
Never assume.
Yes, like I said, don't assume.
Although,
So-
what would a sleepy Marcelo look like? Like Marcelo with a little tryptophan going after.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
He
we'll
might not
find
be
out.
all over the place.
Look, he's brought it down a notch.
Yeah. Yeah, you're strangely mellow. Okay. Well, if there's no other commentary for today,
Mellow Marcelo.
show title. This has been an Agile thing. Right?
Yes,
I
it
believe
has.
so.
Okay, then. I've been Matt Beam.
And I am still Mike Markey.
And I'm Jeff Singleton.
And we'll see them next week. We're recording next week, as far as we know. We'll see you next week. Is that right?
Yes, and if you'd like to come on the show, let us know. And if you'd like to be involved in the discussion, we're doing this live. We're
Every
doing this
Saturday.
live at 10 a.m. Central on Saturday mornings. You could come join. You could come join the stream. You could participate.
You've almost kept it a secret because we don't announce it anywhere. We just sort of do it.
Yeah.
And that's probably a bad on our part. But 100%, Mike. I agree. I amplify your statement.
So, is there
Come-
any other way that they could find us, though, or how they would know when this is happening?
No. Unless they're listening to the show already. It's terrible marketing. It's not good marketing.
Well,
See?
we
have
on-
some growth in our
we are on
mindset.
Spotify. We're on the YouTubes. There are things that people can do. They can click a little bell. They can subscribe to the channel. They could give us thumbs ups and things like that.
Like and subscribe or whatever.
That's what
Yeah.
they say.
That
There
is
are
what they
those
say.
who say liking and subscribing is the way.
See, here's the thing. I watch a ton of YouTube. I basically just watch YouTube anymore. And every time anybody says like and subscribe, a part of me dies. I'm so sick of hearing it. So that's why I'm resistant. But hey, man, that's my fixed mindset. I should get over that, maybe.
There you go.
Anyway, I'm going to hit the stop button. Thanks, everybody. We'll see
ya.
you next week.
Later.
Bye.